Hi, Rachna. Thanks for joining us today on Edooism.
Yeah, my pleasure. Lovely to be here with you.
We're so happy to have Rachna with us at edooism.com. Edooism is an online inclusive academy, and I'm a child development specialist and an artist. As you can see my paintings behind, I teach kids and I do art as a therapy for senior citizens and children, and sometimes for adults as well. I'd like to introduce you to Rachna today. Rachna is a life coach, a certified life coach, and she has studied with Coach for Life. It is a US institute.
So much, Neeta. Your paintings are looking stunning, by the way.
Thank you. Happy Diwali, everyone.
Happy Diwali. Anita, while you and I have been just talking about, what could be a great Diwali gift that everyone could gift themselves, I think this year has been just such a crazy year, such an unprecedented turn of events with everyone going into lockdown and just been such a stressful year for everyone. And I think kids especially have really struggled a lot, right? Just coming to terms with this lack of social contact more than anything else. So if there's anything I would want to get kids to gift themselves, it would be, I think, the gift of self-care and self-awareness. And while you hear about self-care all over the place right now, every post on Instagram and Tumblr and Facebook talks about self-care. I think people also, it's because it's such an overused term, people kind of get a little bit daunted and put off hearing it. It sounds like something that's really huge and out of reach. It's actually really, really simple. And I think the way I see self-care is just doing those little daily things every day that bring me happiness. Whether it's starting my day with just listening to music, whether it's going for a walk in the evening for a short bit, it's picking up the phone and talking to a friend in the middle of the day when things get a little stressful. It's eating my favorite meal, indulging in that piece of chocolate, which I just absolutely love. Those are little acts of self care. Just knowing that these are the things that I love, knowing this is what brings me happiness and joy, and then doing it for myself, especially when I need it, is self care. It could be doing that plank challenge that I've been desperately trying to do all this while. Uh, doing 11 Surya Namaskars for myself in the morning once in a while, whenever I can. Those are little acts of, self care. And it doesn't have to be daunting. It doesn't have to be this big thing that one has to carve time out of. And, it could be these little things every day. And it's such a big thing to be able to show up for yourself, to tell yourself, yes, I am right now maybe going through a tough time, but I'm also taking care of myself, and I'm taking care of the way I feel and the way I'm, in my mental state, I'm kind of taking care of, and that really is self-care.
Right.
Is there
Yeah,
anything you can recommend, especially even with art, because that's again such an amazing activity to be able to do?
yeah. Using your hands and just getting there with the color, it's a huge therapeutic activity. I would say for any age, using a lot of texture and art and color and music at the background. And I would suggest very calming, soothing music. Um, I think that's more like self-care. And if you have the affinity toward music that's wild and crazy, that's also fine. It depends on the mood.
Yeah.
I think the first thing is that we need to know ourselves and tap into that area. I think we need that. It's an art to know yourself and understand your own moods. So today, when I see, there's a lot of stress with the kids today. They may not even have the time for more than 15 minutes self-care between their, academics. So what's your go-to thing for kids? You have a daughter, and what do you tell her as a mom and a life coach?
Yeah.
What do you tell her when she's very anxious, if she is? And how do you all cope with that? What's a good strategy?
Yeah, so I think more than just giving her strategies, because everyone has different strategies. Like I said, it could be just getting yourself a piece of chocolate at that moment, which is again a mood and
Yes, Rachna, you were telling us about the self-critiquing part.
yes. So, everybody, every person has this inner critic that critiques everything that goes on in life. Just
Mhm.
notice yourself and observe yourself after today's conversation, and you'll start hearing simple things like, okay, I need to switch off the light right now. I need to go to bed. I need to brush my teeth. Oh God, I haven't bought my floss yet. It's this little constant commentary that's going on about life. Do I need to switch on the AC? No, maybe I'll keep it off tonight. It's just this little dialogue that's just going on constantly in your head. And what happens is that very often it's just neutral. It's just commenting on everything. I'm hungry right now. What should I get to eat? This is a very common thing that you'll keep hearing in your head, right? I'm hungry right now. What should I get to eat? Or should I go and eat that coffee? I'm sorry. Should I go and eat that chocolate? Or no. Maybe I'm putting on a little weight. Let me not have that piece of chocolate right now. But I'm so tempted. Should I get another piece? It's this constant dialogue that's going on.
But isn't that
And
so
what
natural? Isn't that so natural? And
it
how?
is,
And,
it is, it is
but
completely natural. But imagine how exhausting it is, Neeta, to keep listening to that constant
mm,
24/7 voice that's not leaving you. Very, very exhausting. And what tends to happen is when most people are not even aware of it, right? Because they think it's natural. And what happens is when things get a little overwhelming or daunting, that's where this thing completely spirals out of control. Okay, so you still haven't given your assignment. You were meant to do this. Crap. I'm so back, I'm so behind on this assignment. I was meant to do this. I haven't done this. I'm terrible at everything I do. I'm going to fail this year. What are my parents going to turn around and say? And it goes into this horrendous kind of spiral downwards from there. And then before you know it, you start feeling like, oh my God, I'm just a failure. I'm terrible at what I do. I'm not good
right.
enough. Everyone is going to talk about me. This is, maybe I shouldn't even, maybe I should never have even signed up for this course. I'm terrible at it. I suck at it. And it just goes on and on and on because this voice has just not stopped.
So the same thing can happen even in relationships, right? Like
Absolutely.
can be with just a
Absolutely.
simple thing like, oh, does she think that I'm saying this? Or does he think that I'm saying that?
Yeah.
Or does she think that I'm looking like this? It seems
Yeah.
like it's just building stories. So
Yeah.
can you give us some grounding techniques that you recommend for something like
Absolutely.
this?
So, especially when things are very overwhelming and you start observing this inner critic and you observe that it's spiraling downwards, either like you mentioned, right, in relationships, a friend was meant to, let's assume, or a friend has sent you a WhatsApp message which is really hurtful, and immediately the response is there, she's done it again. She knows this hurts me and she keeps sending this to me despite my telling her that I don't like it. Maybe she's not such a good friend after all. Do I even need this in my life? I don't need this in my life. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to actually block her out. I think that's the best thing to do. So this voice goes on,
Yeah.
and it's not, and you get into this very, very reactive space, and it doesn't give you time to just take a breath and say, okay, what do I really want to do? How do I really want to separate this incident from the person?
Right.
So a few grounding techniques actually are just at that moment when you hear all of this negative talk that's going on in the head, is to perhaps just stop for 20 seconds, just 20 seconds, to close your eyes, put your feet on the ground, okay? So that immediately earths you or grounds you. And that's what grounding really means, actually just grounding you to the earth, and just focus on your breath for 20 seconds. Just focusing on your breathing in, breathing out.
Mhm.
Um, and then come back a little bit and say, okay, now what do I want to do? Another really good grounding technique is just picking up on 5 sounds that you can hear in the environment. So, of course,
Mhm.
stopping whatever you're doing first and listen for 5 sounds in the environment. It could be a whistle of a pressure cooker in the kitchen. It could be somebody tapping something, but it could be the whirring of the fan, but you're very specifically trying to pick out 5 sounds, what that does is immediately brings you into the present. And your
Right.
focus completely diverts because you're looking for something, and that mind has to stop thinking so much. The third thing that can be done is another, again, a fabulous exercise, is to look for 5 things in the environment of a similar color or a similar shape or a similar texture, just in the room itself. When you're in the room, especially if you're studying or you're even at work, just look out for 5 things, for instance, in your room that are yellow in color. Uh, and again, brings your focus back to the present.
So you're substituting your negative thoughts or even positive, too many positive thoughts
Yes.
also. I guess that kind of leads you to even have a lot of expectations, the thoughts.
Absolutely. It just
So,
helps you focus and brings you back into the moment.
right.
And these are some grounding techniques. Another thing you could do, again, depending, because grounding actually, the way it works is it can work with all your 5 senses. So if you're kinesthetic and you feel I need some texture, I keep telling people, bring, uncooked rice, keep a little bowl of uncooked rice next to you, and you can immediately start playing with that. And it instantly, if you are kinesthetic, it immediately calms you down. If you have some sort of textured paper around you that you can just rub on your
Yeah.
hands, or immediately calms you down. If you have thermocol balls, for instance, that you can put in a little bowl, or little pebbles, those little
Just
colored pebbles that you
play
can,
with them.
just kind of play with. That's that. Smells are another thing. A lot of people respond very positively to lemon, to lavender, to mint. You could keep some of these fragrances around you,
Yeah.
especially when studying, and you feel like it's getting too much. Just take those 20 seconds to breathe and then
Yeah.
smell like whatever your favorite fragrance. It could be any of these essential oils, or even one of your favorite perfumes that you could spray on your or on a napkin and just keep it next to you
Yeah.
and just smell that. Again, smells have a very nice association immediately. So it'll bring some sort of positive memory back to mind,
Right.
which takes me actually to the other thing. So there are these grounding techniques using all your 5 senses. So which is for your sight, you look for 5 things in your environment of a similar color, size, shape. Smell, which is keeping all your smells that immediately ground you.
Right.
So that side, there's smells, there is hearing. So you
Yeah.
listen to 5 sounds in the environment that you can pick out. Touch, so you're
Touch.
kind of playing with 5 of these, any kind of textures that allow you, and then just focus on your breathing, just pure focusing on your breath,
And
and
then
nothing.
there's taste.
And then stay. Yes, thank you
Taste
for reminding
mithai,
me.
just mithai nowadays.
Yeah, anything. It could be something spicy that immediately kind of brings your attention back. It has to bring your attention back to the present moment
Right.
and not allow that mind to wander.
Yeah.
So these are the 5 grounding techniques. But outside of this, there's also something very interesting called resourcing. And what resourcing is everyone, all of us have a resource, and a bank of resources for ourselves that make us feel good.
Yeah.
And 2 really good resourcing techniques. One is to close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and imagine your safe space. That could be any place that you think is a safe place, and it could be your imagination, some place you've never ever been to. For instance, my safe place is to sit in a tree house in this very, very highly forested area. And when I'm feeling unnerved, I actually close my eyes and imagine myself
Yeah.
sitting there. I imagine myself listening to the sound of the stream in this very forested area. I imagine myself hearing some birds and hearing some rustling of the leaves in the trees in this area. And I imagine my dog sitting in my lap. So it immediately brings a smile to my face, and I start feeling like, okay, I can do this, I can manage. So
Yeah.
that's one resourcing technique. Another resourcing technique is to actually again take a few deep breaths, close your eyes, and think of a moment of an incident where you actually felt safest. Something that's
Yeah.
happened in your life. It could be the time you held a new puppy for the first time. It could be about the time you met up with a friend and you spent a fabulous afternoon or an evening together. It could be sitting and just reading a book. but that memory immediately brings you back to the present, and it's like a resource that you have that allows you to tap into that, and you feel rejuvenated, and you feel like, okay, I can handle this.
But as long as we think of something that's very positive, that
it has to be a positive, which is why it has to be either a safe place or an incident that's made you feel loved. It's made you an incident that's made you feel happy. It's got to be one of those. For me, another one of my, again, resources is this crazy song that my daughter introduced me to, and I hated the song. I was like, are you crazy? What are you making me listen to? And she kept putting it on repeat. Every time I got into the car, I would start driving and she would put that song on repeat. And I would laugh.
What song?
Oh God, it's terrible, terrible song, which I'm not going to mention. But now every time I hear the crazy song, it just puts a smile to my face. No matter how.
It was that moment, you thought of that moment that
the association
that made you happy.
Yeah, it's the association of that song.
So for me, my go-to would be reading an Enid Blyton's, A Secret Seven, the mysteries, the kids, and remembering those days, the summer holidays back then.
Absolutely.
That's my comfort zone. Archie comics.
So for Neeta, that for you would be then closing your eyes for 20 seconds, taking a few deep breaths, and then actually remembering this memory of reading your, Enid Blyton.
So what you're trying to say is it's not necessary to do an activity. You need to basically shut off your mind from the incidents that you're building stories upon.
Yes.
And you got to go back into a sweet comfort zone in your mind. You need to make friends with the mind, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it actually just makes you feel like I have this resource in me that is going to help me get out of whatever I'm feeling right now. This could even work very well with the same friend who's really, really, really angered you, and you're wanting to react, but it allows you not to react. It allows you to respond instead. One of the things could be even an affirmation that you use. One of my affirmations is to always act from love and not for love. And that to me is such a powerful statement. No matter how angry I am with that particular person at that moment, the minute I tell myself this sentence, I am going to act from love, not for love, I'm actually able to go back and apologize, even though I feel like I may not have done something really big to apologize for, but it allows me to do that. It allows me to take a step back and say, okay, let me not make this worse. Because I'm acting from love, I'm not doing this for love. So it could be an affirmation. It could be a sentence that really says something to you. This sentence speaks volumes to me.
Is this part of resourcing?
This is part of resourcing as well.
And
it's just having an affirmation.
Affirmation. So these are a lot of techniques. I think it's just, I'm sure we all know about these things, but we're not aware on a daily basis. So talking about these things sort of reminds somebody who's listening to us right now that, hey, I've forgotten about this. This would be, please use all these techniques, people. I will. I know that I will at least use the sound and breath. I forget about the breath part often. We just go on talking and we go on working and we forget to breathe. So I think that's really important. Thanks, Rachna.
Yeah, and it could actually, especially when you're studying, right, before you get into your class, just take those 20 seconds. It should, doesn't have to be longer than 20 seconds. So maybe before I start every class, I tell myself I'm going to take a 20-second breathing, and then I'm going to get into a class.
What about any more resourcing techniques? It's very interesting. I could go on and on.
So these are actually my go-to techniques. They really are. They really help. Music is again a great resource. It brings back so many happy memories at different points, of course, depending on what you're listening to. So it's important, Neeta, to identify what is your go-to resource. Very, very important to identify that safe place. Like I said, could be from your imagination or a place you may have actually visited. But it's important to know it. So my absolute go-to safe place is this tree house in the forest. And that's not even something I've been to. It's my imagination. but I've identified that as my safe place.
Right.
So when I'm feeling very, very overwhelmed, that's my go-to. I think so. Identifying what are all your resources that help you is important. These are a few that I can give you from my examples. I'm sure when one starts becoming more aware that these are my resources, they exist for me. I'm sure there'll be a
Yeah.
bank of them. But the thing is, it's got to be done consistently. So you have to keep going back to it again and again, because that's when it's really going to help you when you're down and out. If you
Right.
start looking for it when it's down and out, it's going to be hard.
Like a practice.
Yeah, yeah. So just identifying them in advance. You could draw. I know I went for a workshop once that talked about this whole safe space, and we all had to draw it out. So I drew this whole place, and it was, for me, it was just all those colors, all those
Yeah.
different shades of green and browns, and I brought that home, and just looking at that, when it's not far away from me, really helps. Again, something that I tell my daughter, and I tell a lot of kids that I talk to as well, who have these beautiful images on Tumblr, right? Find one that talks to you. Even if you feel like I haven't come across a place right now which is my go-to place, look for an image on Tumblr, put it on your phone. Let that become your wallpaper. So you need to just look at it for 20 seconds and just imagine you're sitting there and bring yourself back to the present. So it becomes a resource.
Well, that sounds really nice. Okay, so these are quite a lot of practices. And the other one I would like to add is to sign up on edooism.com and sign up for any of our life coaches sessions. And each life coach on Edooism brings to the table a whole lot of experience and knowledge. Rachna is also an educator. She has worked at Akanksha, and she's also with us. And I love listening to her for a long time, as you can see. She always has something interesting to say. Rachna did a coaching session with the youth, a few of the youth on our platform. And it was such a super hit with them. We got beautiful feedback. Do sign up with Rachna for life coaching. Then you can sign up for a wide array of courses, healing, therapies. We have a lot for the youth and of course for all ages. But we've tailor-made a lot of our courses to suit young adults today. So do sign up on edooism.com. Rachna, one message from you for all the viewers today.
I would say just think about how you can stay kind towards yourself. Very often we think about staying kind and being kind towards others, and self is the last person we all think about. Do something for yourself today. Just be kind to yourself.
I'm going to do just that and binge watch movies tonight. Right, going into Diwali, really wish everyone here a very, very happy Diwali and a prosperous new year. And I wish good health and wellness for everyone. Thank you so much, Rachna, for today. It was very insightful.
Thank you, Neeta. My pleasure. It's lovely talking to you. I think when like minds get together, it's always very, very exciting. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
And so, but and something that you mentioned and something that I keep talking to her about is about self-awareness, knowing yourself first. One of the things that most people are not even aware of is something called an inner critic. This inner voice that goes on from the second that you wake up every day till you go to bed, and perhaps sometimes in your dreams as well. And it's this kind of inner critic that thinks it can comment on each and everything. So you wake up in the morning, and this inner critic starts off saying, "Oh God, do I need to get up again? It's so early. I hate this. I wish I did not have class today." It's just this kind of voice that's going on in the head. Um, I don't want this coffee right now, or I'm hungry. It's just this kind of commentary that goes on in the head. You'll be sitting and doing something, and suddenly this kind of inner voice goes on. Oh God, she's giving me this lecture again. I don't want to hear this. Why am I here? I hate this. So and it's like this constant commentary, and sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's also neutral. And because it's neutral so often, one doesn't realize it's even happening. So it's important one to recognize that yes, there is this inner critic and it's on all the time. Um, Really just doesn't take a break. So interestingly, you have to actually start noticing and trying to very, very specifically listen. That's when you realize it's there. Once you realize it's there, I think the tougher thing is, of course, to put it on mute, which is incredibly tough. And that's something that I keep telling her. Just take a few minutes every day to do one task. Immerse yourself in one task, even if it's for 5 minutes. That completely allows your mind to shut down and put yourself on mute.